The Pendle witch trials occurred in the August of 1612, and according to Historic England, it is historically remembered as the biggest witch trial in British history. 12 women were accused within a span of mere months. 10 were convicted of witchcraft and consequently hanged. 1 died in the throes of prison, and only Alice Grey survived as a standalone innocent. The hasty 2-day trial was held at Lancaster Castle, which was unusually well documented in the wonderful discovery of witches in the county of Lancaster, written by Thomas Potts and published in 1613. He sat in the Pendle trials and wrote down what occurred as it unfolded, and further recorded interviews between accusers and the accused. This tragic event provides insight into the societal views and norms of 17th century England, including gender dynamics, the roles of women within their communities, and the strong grasp religion had on law and government systems. But how exactly did these accusations unfold, you may ask? It all started with an altercation between Alison Device and John Law. Though it seemed insignificant in the moment, this event was incredibly crucial as it sparked the Pendle trials and heavily influenced the accused. Despite being the last one to be accused, Alison's interaction with John led to an investigation that swept through Pendle Hill, combing the village healers for demonic intent. According to Lancaster Castle's heritage records, Alison Device was out begging on the road to Colin when John Law walked past. Alison stopped him and asked him for a pin. He did not oblige her request and continued onwards. Alison's own testimony claims that she descended from a family of witches who practiced magic as their trade. She confessed that, in a moment of weakness, her familiar spirit came to her in the shape of a black dog, and she asked it to harm and lame John Law. On the walk, John Law suffered a stroke that left one side of his body paralysed, and he could no longer speak. He was taken to the closest inn, and Alison came to his bedside, where she admitted her role in his predicament and begged for forgiveness. Law forgave her and actually did not report her to the authorities. However, when his son Abraham learned of what occurred, he brought the matter to local magistrate Roger Noel. Noel made many arrests in the months following, and despite Alison and John's interactions being the trigger event, Alison was the last to be accused before trial in August. Hi Alison, good to have you on the show. Tell me, how do you feel knowing that your single conversation with John Law led to a massive witch hunt in your region? Not all of the blame should be put on me. The Demdikes and Shattoxes were at each other's throats, blaming one another left, right and centre. Indeed. Thank you for your insight, Alison. Now shoo! Go hang out somewhere else. It's true. Alison's interaction with John Law was a pivotal moment in the Pendle witch hunt. However, fears and contentions surrounding witches had been culminating for many years prior. Abraham used his father's stroke as a catalyst to pour out superstitions and concerns commonly felt around England during the time. Fear surrounding witches was immense during the 17th century. Noel interviewed Alison following the incident with John Law. Thomas Potts' discovery of witches details that Alison confessed immediately before implicating an old woman named Elizabeth Southerns. Elizabeth was her neighbour, known throughout Pendle Hill as Old Demdike. The Demdike family were recognised in the community as healers, an illegal yet accepted form of witchcraft at the time. However, Alison explained in her confession that the Demdikes were not as innocent as they seemed, and that on walks with Old Demdike, she was persuaded to, quote, let the devil come suck at some part of her. It is revealed through this that Old Demdike was Alison's grandmother, and Alison had been indoctrinated into believing she possessed the power to curse people through their family business. Alison's mother was questioned, and she claimed that Elizabeth had the mark of the devil, which was a blemish thought to be a teat that witches used to feed the devil as payment for dark magic. It was a chain of accusations that then spread like wildfire.
You told me to let the devil come feed off of me. Well, yes, and I may be a witch, but the onus is on Anne Whittle. This is all her fault. She killed Alison's father. Oh, really? And how did I do that? John Device was so scared of you that he paid you for protection. When he stopped paying you, he suddenly became unwell and died. That is not just a coincidence. I am no witch. Yes, you are, and James Robinson can testify against you as well. He knows that you murdered Robert Nutter after he accused you of souring his beer. Well then, I guess I am a witch. Congratulations, old Demdike, you've caught me.
Aha! A confession. You are to stand trial for witchcraft in August.
But that isn't fair. I didn't do it alone. My daughter aided me. She made the clay sculptures we used as voodoo dolls. You should arrest her too.
Thanks, I will.
See what I mean? Wildfire. These confessions make it apparent that family feuds were very present within small-knit communities, holding severe consequences during times of uncertainty and paranoia. Grudges were dangerous and could prove deadly should the opportunity present itself. 6 of the 11 accused individuals in the Pendle trials were from either Demdike or Shattock's families, demonstrating Alison's potent significance within this historical event. Had she not come to believe she herself was a witch, it is probable that the trials would not have yielded the same fatal results. The other women convicted during this time found themselves arrested for similar reasons. Many were healers within their villages or poverty-stricken beggars who were not well liked within their communities. People were always looking for something or someone to blame for misfortune or accidents, and so guilt fell to these women, who were used as scapegoats. We see this common theme of blaming outcasts demonstrated throughout many historical hunts, including the Salem witch trials. You may be wondering how this fear and suspicion arose in England. When we look to this time period, we see how deeply religious the leaders were at the time. King James I wrote a book called Demonology in 1597, just 15 years before the Pendle trials, which explained the dangers that witches posed. It was essentially a guide on how to identify and punish witches, and it was insistent that women found guilty of witchcraft must be put to death. Within his book, James wrote, "The taking of the mark, or the touching of any part, through peradventure no mark remain, as it doth with all witches." Old Demdike was accused of having the mark of the devil. From this, it can be seen that the findings of demonology massively increased fear within England. Even if women were found without said mark, they were still accused and convicted, as King James believed that the mark could vanish over time. This intensified suspicions and paranoia, as people could not simply rely on physical evidence to convict a witch, making it harder to identify them. Despite this, demonology was only a contributor to the already existing witch craze. King Henry VIII made witchcraft illegal in 1542, which was repealed in 1547, but Elizabeth I reinstated it in 1563, and James only strengthened the power of magistrates and hunters under the Witchcraft Act of 1604. The divide between Puritans, Catholics and Anglicans also played a role in the witch craze of the 16th and 17th century, with religious fearmongering and conflicting beliefs leading to political instability and mass hysteria. On Good Friday, April 6, Alison attended a party at Malcolm Tower with her brother, younger sister and mother. According to Shireburn Park, Noel became aware of this meeting and was angered that they were not in church like good Christians should be. It is important to note that James I was Anglican, and Alison's family were known as faithful Catholics, quite unorthodox at the time. Clearly, Noel believed that condemning nonconformists would earn him favour with the king, and so he orchestrated an arrest of all the people in the tower. James Device, Alison's brother, was among many of the people arrested, as well as his 9-year-old sister. In an attempt to save himself, he accused his grandmother, Alison, Old Shattocks, Anne Redfern, Alice Nutter, Catherine Hewett, Jane and John Balcock, and Isabel Roby. He claimed that he was also a witch, but could serve as an informer to Magistrate Noel. Noel arrested James along with all of the other accused witches. Janet, who had been interrogated alongside her brother, confirmed his accusations and was appointed as the key witness within the investigation and trials. All of the accused women, and James, were made to walk to Lancaster Jail, where they waited 4 months in cold, diseased prison cells. Old Demdike, aged 80, passed away in these grim conditions. On the 17th of August, all of the accused stood trial. Sir Edward Bromley served as the presiding judge and Sir James Oldham served alongside him. They both wrote an account of the trial in Thomas Potts' The Wonderful Discovery of Witches in the County of Lancaster. Janet served as key witness for the case. She had stood trial in front of Bromley, only 8 years old, just before the Pendle trials, for alleged murder, which may be part of the reason that she was so eager to provide evidence and clear her name. Under witchcraft law, a child of her age could not stand witness to witchcraft, but King James' demonology had suspended the normal rules for witchcraft trials in England at the time. According to the wonderful discovery of witches in the county of Lancaster, the judges began the trial by reading the evidence and confessions gathered by Roger Noel. Elizabeth Sothern confessed with faith that about 20 years passed as she was coming homeward from begging. It is then documented that Janet was called forth to give evidence. Elizabeth Sothern's mine own old mother forced a dog to her knee to get blood from under her arm to feed Satan. Every single accused witch pled not guilty at their trial, according to Lancaster Castle historical records. However, due to earlier confessions, they had already incriminated themselves and were consequently sentenced to hanging. Alice Gray was the only person found not guilty. Originally being arrested at the Malkin Tower alongside Alison, she had been implicated of witchcraft by several of the other accused witches. The majority of people arrested confessed to witchcraft under pressure, apart from Alice. Due to this, there was insufficient evidence on which to convict her, and Janet even confirmed her testimony to the court. After the 2-day trial concluded, and 10 of the accused had been convicted of witchcraft, a public hanging took place. Alice Gray was acquitted and allowed to return home once she had paid her board. The Pendle witch trials had extreme consequences in addition to the many deaths that it caused. The use of a child witness was not accepted among many court systems. Though there was a temporary suspension of typical trial legalities due to demonology, it was still illegal to use the testimony of a child as evidence in court. The judges did not face any penalties or punishments for their reliance on Janet Device, but the trial was questioned by many. The suspension ended and the law remained in place. In the later and more infamous Salem witch trials, children could not stand as witnesses in court. The first accused witch was not arrested until an adult implicated her. This is a direct influence of the condemnation of Janet's involvement in the Pendle witch trials. Moreover, the Pendle trials reinforced misconceptions surrounding witches at the time, leading to heightened fear and paranoia. But possibly the most important and weighty impact of the Pendle trials was the wonderful discovery of witches. The book, released in 1613, was used and followed by all magistrates in England and America for over 80 years. It was even used in the aforementioned Salem trials before its findings were deemed outdated and a new system was implemented. Ultimately, the Pendle witch trials were detrimental to all involved and brought with it significant outcomes. 10 of the accused were hanged. 1 died elderly and frail in a damp, dark prison cell. 1 walked free. Janet lost her family and, according to the BBC, was later convicted of witchcraft in 1636. She was not found guilty, but was not allowed to leave Lancaster Castle until she had paid her board, which would have been impossible for someone of her class. This trial highlights how dangerous family feuds were, how ornamental and significant one person can be, and also demonstrates how accusations spread like wildfire. The findings of the trials were used extensively in several other trials, further contributing to the fearful, fatal, and horrific witch craze of the 16th and 17th century. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Dreadful Olden Days, and a special thanks to Horrible Histories for being the basis of this parody.